So after years of trying to find their guy, it seems like the Washington Commanders have finally found that in 2023 Heisman winner Jayden Daniels. However, they are entering a weird situation where they've signed a lot of guys who you would call washed. I mean, they had a lot of questionable free agency signings where in the long run, it's not going to end up well. So we're going to dive a little deeper into this weird team that is the Washington Commanders in 2024. First, we have to go back to last season. The Commanders got off to a 4-6 start. However, they would lose 7 straight games, and they were a middle-of-the-pack team looking and fighting for a playoff spot. However, they would completely fall apart and become the second worst team in the NFL. After going gone for multiple quarterbacks, then landing on Taylor Heinicke, and then a washed Carson Wentz, and then it looked like they finally found their guy in Sam Howell. Now, through the first half of the season, Sam Howell wasn't too bad. Even at one point midway through the year, he was number 1 in passing yards. However, he had an epic collapse near the end of the season, and is much of the reason why the Commanders were so bad this season. He finished with a complete, perfect touchdown interception ratio of 21 touchdowns and 21 interceptions, and he had spurts, he looked good at times, but he wasn't going to be the guy for the future. So that's why in the offseason, the Commanders traded Sam Howell to the Seahawks in looks for a new franchise quarterback, and also they knew Sam Howell wasn't going to be the long-term plan. Also in the offseason, the Commanders decided to fire Ron Rivera. He didn't really do too much there in his 4 seasons. He did make a playoff appearance in 2020, but that was really because the NFC East was so bad, but he never had a winning season there in Washington. It was a good move. And it was time for a new era to begin, and with the new era comes in a new quarterback most of the time, and with them holding the number 2 overall pick, and with this being a pretty good top-tier quarterback class, they decided to take Jayden Daniels from LSU. Now, during the 2023 college season, his draft stock rose a ton, and that was because he had a very impressive season, almost 5,000 yards of total offense, 50 total touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions, and that impressive season resulted in him winning the Heisman. With him just coming off a Heisman winning season, and with this style of play being much more suitable for today's NFL, it's safe to say, or you can easily bet, that the future is bright for him. But in order for a quarterback to grow, you need to put some weapons around him. For the Commanders, I think they have some decent weapons to surround Jayden Daniels. However, they made some boneheaded decisions during the offseason, which we will get to. We're going to take a look at these weapons, and we're going to start off with arguably the best player on the team, and I would say definitely the best player on the offensive side of the ball, Terry McLaurin. You take a look at his stats, and in the yards department, he's been pretty consistent. I mean, it's kind of Mike Evans type, I would say. The only difference between him and Mike Evans is that Mike Evans scores a lot more touchdowns. However, it's very important that you get him involved in the passing game, because there were games and instances last year where he did not get utilized well at all, and it showed on the box score, it showed on the final result, it showed on pretty much everything. And there was a game last season where he put up 0 catches, 0 yards, 0 everything. You had a Tony Snell game out there, and he even said, "I ran a lot of cardio today," and let's make sure that doesn't happen next year. I doubt it will. I think Jayden Daniels is going to do good getting him involved, but it's pretty important to state. However, the wide receiver core after Terry McLaurin kind of dies down from there. Their wide receiver 2 is Jahan Dotson, who was their first round pick in 2022, and so far, he's been kind of disappointing. He's had back-to-back 500-yard seasons, but nothing too special. There's always optimism that he could break out into a 1,000-yard receiver, but you never know. And then at wide receiver 3, we have 3rd round pick, rookie Luke McCaffrey, who I think is the brother of Christian McCaffrey. I know he's related to him in some way. And then after that, you got Diami Brown, Olamide Zaccheaus, I think I'm saying that right. And we got Jamison Crowder, other guys like that, Damiere Byrd. I think it's kind of bad. It's an average wide receiver core. And it just came out that Brandon Ayuk requested a trade from the 49ers, and he is listed the Commanders for some reason as one of the top teams. Honestly, I have no idea why, but if the Commanders can get Brandon Ayuk, that will be absolutely huge. If I'm the Commanders, I am throwing multiple picks at the 49ers to get Ayuk. This would be insanely huge. Let's now talk about the running back core, and this leads us to our first questionable move of the offseason. This offseason, the Commanders signed fantasy football legend Austin Eckler, who is really only well known just because of fantasy football, and his stats took a big dip in production last year, and signing him honestly was not a good move. The running back 2, however, is Brian Robinson, who's going to be entering his 3rd season, and he's not amazing, but I think he can definitely get the job done, and I think he can continue to improve in the future. Now let's look at the tight ends, where we see our second horrible signing of the offseason. The Commanders decided to sign tight end Zach Ertz, who hasn't had a productive season since 2021, and last season he got injured midway through the year for the entire season, so he's coming off a season-ending injury, and he's one of the oldest players in the NFL, especially at his position. Again, he's going to be the starting tight end as well, not a tight end 2, tight end 1. This is very stupid. I don't know what they're doing here. Even if it's for a short-term thing, I don't even think he's a good short-term tight end. It doesn't make sense. However, they did draft Ben Sinnott in the 2nd round. I don't know if I'm saying that last name right. I think it's Ben Sinnott, something like that. He's a tight end from Kansas State. He was very good in college. They drafted him in the 2nd round. He's going to back up Zach Ertz to start the season, and he's probably, he's going to learn from Zach Ertz, so maybe signing Zach Ertz wasn't so bad after all. Maybe the Commanders know more than we do. You look at the old line here, and I'm just going to be real with y'all. I'm a casual when it comes to linemen. I know names, but I don't know. I mean, I know who the best ones are, like Zach Martin, Lane Johnson, all those guys, but I don't know if Andrew Wiley is good or not. I've heard the name before, but I have no idea if he's good or not. I know who Sam Cosmi is, but I have no idea if he's good or not. So if you're a Commanders fan or you know a lot about linemen, let me know. We go to the front 4, and Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. I've been there for a while, and they've been pretty solid contributors to this team. It's crazy to me how they have not requested a trade yet. It's crazy to me how they've stuck with this team for so long. And then you also have some pretty decent moves in Dante Fowler, Doris Armstrong, and Cleveland Farrell. And then we have our third controversial signing in Bobby Wagner, and I could see how people see this as a risky, bad signing. You know, he's old, he could start declining soon, but he's been very consistent. He's always been one of the best linebackers in the NFL, so if he keeps it up, he's going to be big and crucial for the Commanders. But if his age starts to show, if father time starts to knock at the door, then yeah, he's in trouble. The Commanders are in trouble. Outside of Bobby Wagner, this linebacker core is kind of just, and Jamin Davis has been all right in his first 3 seasons as a pro, and besides that, I really don't know anyone else. The name Michael Walker sounds familiar, but besides that, I don't know anyone here. And then we end up with the secondary, and it's also just alright. They lost Cameron Curl to the Rams this offseason, but they replaced him with Jeremy Chin, who isn't too bad himself, and there's a lot of expectations on second-year quarterback Emmanuel Forbes. I've seen a lot of hype around him from Commanders fans on Twitter, and I mean, he was alright last season. I don't really get it, though. I don't think he's going to be as good as someone like Christian Gonzalez, for example, but you never know. And then their other corner is Benjamin St-Juste. I think I'm saying that right, Benjamin St-Juste, however you say it. He's been in the league for 3 seasons, and he's also been alright so far in his career. So yeah, this team is going to be really interesting to watch next year. They have some good players, but at the same time, they're just coming off a 4-13 season, and they're still not there yet, and it's also going to be tough to compete in a division like the NFC East, which is ruled by the Cowboys and the Eagles. The Giants kind of fell off from this season, but how do you think the Commanders are going to do in 2024? Let me know, and that's about it. Bye.